Imagine you're sitting at a cozy cafe on a rainy afternoon, scrolling through videos, and you stumble upon this story, one that'll make you smile, cry, and rethink what truly matters in life. If you love emotional stories that touch the heart, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe because this one will stay with you long after it ends. It all began with a man named Ethan Ward, a quiet, middle-aged janitor who worked at a massive corporate building in the city. He was the kind of man most people didn't notice, always wearing his faded blue uniform, pushing a squeaky cleaning cart, greeting everyone with a polite nod and moving on. But behind that tired smile was a story of pain, loss, and resilience that no one cared to know. Ethan had once been an engineer full of dreams and ambition, but life can be cruel. After losing his wife to illness and his savings to medical bills, he was left raising his teenage daughter, Lily, alone. To keep her in school and food on the table, Ethan took the first job he could find, cleaning offices in the very kinds of companies he once dreamed of working for. Every night when everyone else left the building, he'd sweep the same hallways where executives walked, whispering softly to himself, "Someday, Lily will have a better life than this." One Friday afternoon, a few young employees from the marketing department were joking around near the break room. They were planning a little surprise for their boss, a blind date prank. Their CEO, Claire Donovan, was a 33-year-old powerhouse. Smart, confident, and stunning, she was known for her no-nonsense attitude and business brilliance. What most didn't know was that she was also incredibly lonely. After years of building her empire, she had no time for love, and her team thought setting her up on a mystery date would be funny. "Let's tell her we found the perfect gentleman," one of the interns laughed. "But instead of some fancy guy, we'll send the janitor. That'll be hilarious." They didn't mean harm, not really, but their idea was cruel. They saw Ethan as invisible, someone to laugh at, not with. That evening, as he finished mopping the lobby, one of the employees approached him. "Hey, Ethan," she said sweetly. "Our boss is going on a dinner meeting tonight and her date canceled last minute. Would you mind filling in? It's at the Rosewood restaurant. We'll pay for everything." Ethan looked surprised. I don't think that's." "Please," she interrupted, smiling. "She's kind, you'd be doing us a favor." Ethan hesitated. He hadn't been on a date in years, but something about the invitation, maybe the word kind, touched a lonely corner of his heart. He agreed. That night, he wore his best clothes, a neatly ironed shirt, an old tie, and polished shoes. He even borrowed Lily's advice about combing his hair differently. As he looked at himself in the mirror, he smiled nervously. "Not too bad for an old janitor," he whispered. When he arrived at the restaurant, the hostess guided him to a table by the window. And there she was, Claire Donovan, the CEO, radiant in an elegant black dress, looking at her phone, her eyes lifted as he approached. For a brief moment she looked puzzled, then she smiled. "You must be Ethan," she said gently. "Please sit down." Ethan's hands trembled slightly as he pulled out the chair. He expected her to mock him or send him away. But she didn't. Instead, she started asking questions about his day, his family, his work. And to his own surprise, he found himself really talking about life, about losing his wife, about raising Lily, about how hard it was to stay hopeful when the world seemed so unfair. Claire listened quietly. The laughter and chatter of the restaurant faded into the background. There was something raw, honest, and deeply human about Ethan that she hadn't experienced in years. He wasn't trying to impress her. He wasn't playing any game. He was just real. As the evening went on, the employees who set up the prank sat at a nearby table, watching in disbelief. They expected embarrassment, but what they saw instead stunned them. Claire wasn't laughing. She was crying, softly, silently. When the dinner ended, Ethan stood up, ready to thank her and leave, assuming it was all a mistake. But Claire stopped him. "Ethan, would you walk with me for a moment?" They stepped outside under the soft glow of streetlights. Claire turned to him and said, "You know, I used to think success meant never showing weakness. But listening to you tonight, I realized how blind I've been. You reminded me of something I lost: humility, gratitude, compassion." Ethan smiled faintly. "I'm no one special, ma'am." But Claire shook her head. "You're exactly what's special, Ethan. You work hard, you care, you love. That's what people forget matters most." The next morning, when she arrived at the office, her staff was waiting, nervous and guilty. She looked around the room and said calmly, "Whoever thought last night's setup was funny, you were wrong. You tried to humiliate a good man, but instead you reminded me that our company needs more people like him, not fewer." Then she did something no one expected. She promoted Ethan not as a janitor but as a facilities manager in charge of training and supervising the maintenance team. She also offered him a scholarship fund for his daughter Lily's education. The room was silent. A few employees had tears in their eyes, and when Ethan came in unsure of what was happening, Claire stood and said, "You taught me something last night, Ethan, that true worth isn't in titles or suits, it's in character." Ethan's voice broke as he whispered, "Thank you, ma'am, you've changed my life." She smiled softly, "No, Ethan, you changed mine." Months later, Ethan's daughter graduated high school with honors thanks to the scholarship. The company held a small ceremony, and when Claire handed Lily her certificate, she said, "Your father is the kind of man this world needs more of." Ethan stood in the crowd, tears glistening in his eyes, and for the first time in years he felt seen, truly seen. So if you've watched this far, take a moment to remember this: kindness costs nothing, but it can change everything. Don't judge people by their job, their clothes, or what they have. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you can't see. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more stories that remind us, sometimes the smallest hearts carry the biggest strength. Because as Ethan proved, being kind is never a joke, it's the most powerful thing we can ever be.